Every year, families across America gather around a table piled high with food, give thanks, and slip into a turkey-induced nap. But behind the mashed potatoes and pumpkin pie lies a history full of strange traditions, unexpected origins, and downright bizarre facts. So grab a slice of pie, or three, because here are 10 weird Thanksgiving facts you probably never knew. Welcome to Tell Everyone Trivia. The very first Thanksgiving in 1621 wasn't just a single meal, it was a 3-day celebration. The Pilgrims and the Wampanoag tribe came together not just to eat, but to feast, play games, shoot muskets, and enjoy what was essentially an early colonial block party. There were about 90 Native Americans and 50 English settlers, and everyone contributed to the food supply. No televisions, no parades, no football, just 3 straight days of eating, storytelling, and probably some very questionable singing. Here's the shocker. Turkey wasn't even the star of the show. Historians say the main dishes were deer, duck, goose, and seafood. The area around Plymouth was rich with shellfish and fish, so they dined on clams, mussels, and eels. Yes, eels. Turkeys were around, but they were more likely to be wild and scrawny, not the centerpiece bird we picture today. So when you carve your Thanksgiving turkey, remember, it's a modern twist on what was once a very different kind of menu. Speaking of modern traditions, you can forget about pumpkin pie at that first feast. The settlers didn't have ovens, and sugar was a rare luxury. Instead, they roasted pumpkins whole, sometimes filling them with honey, milk, and spices to make a kind of early pumpkin custard. Imagine cutting open a pumpkin and scooping out warm, sweet fillings straight from the shell. No pie crust, no whipped cream, just pure pumpkin innovation over an open flame. Now, fast forward a few centuries to another American tradition, football. Every Thanksgiving, millions of people tune in to watch the NFL, and we have the Detroit Lions to thank for that. In 1934, the Lions were a new team struggling to fill their stadium seats. So the owner scheduled a Thanksgiving Day game against the Chicago Bears, and the broadcast drew a massive national audience. It was such a hit that it became an annual tradition. So while we're stuffing ourselves with turkey, the Lions are usually getting stuffed on the scoreboard. But how did Thanksgiving even become a national holiday? For that, we owe thanks to Sarah Josepha Hale, the woman who wrote Mary Had a Little Lamb. She spent 17 years writing letters and articles to presidents and politicians, pleading for a national day of thanks to bring the country together. Finally, in 1863, Abraham Lincoln made it official during the Civil War. One persistent woman, a nursery rhyme, and a lot of handwritten letters. That's the recipe for Thanksgiving as we know it. And speaking of traditions, the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade wasn't always filled with giant cartoon balloons. In its very first parade in 1924, Macy's used live animals from the Central Park Zoo, including elephants, camels, and bears, marching down the streets of New York City. The animals terrified some children and amused others, but it worked. The parade became an instant hit. Balloons didn't appear until a few years later, when the zoo animals were finally replaced with the inflatable kind, safer, quieter, and a lot easier to clean up after. Another strange custom, the presidential turkey pardon. For more than a century, farmers have been sending turkeys to the White House as gifts, but the idea of pardoning one started out as a joke. Sometimes the turkey was spared, sometimes it was served for dinner. It wasn't until 1989 that President George H.W. Bush made the pardon official, turning it into a lighthearted annual tradition. Now, every Thanksgiving, one lucky bird gets to retire at a farm instead of becoming dinner. In some states, Thanksgiving comes with its own form of edible art, butter sculpting. Yep, you heard that right. Every year, artists carve massive blocks of butter into turkeys, celebrities, or entire scenes of Americana. The Iowa State Fair is famous for it, and the sculptures are kept refrigerated for display. It's part art, part heart attack waiting to happen, and entirely American. Because nothing says celebration like carving dairy products into masterpieces. But if you think you're the only one stressed about cooking on Thanksgiving, you're not alone. In 1981, the Butterball Turkey Talk Line opened to help panicked home chefs figure out how to rescue their birds. Each year, more than 100,000 people call in with questions like, "Can I cook my turkey in the dishwasher?" and "How long will it take to thaw a 30-pound bird in the bathtub?" The experts answer it all calmly and kindly, helping to save dinners and maybe a few marriages along the way. And finally, the turkeys themselves, they've got a secret. Wild turkeys can actually fly, not far, but fast, up to 55 miles per hour in short bursts. The domestic turkeys we eat, though, are bred to be plump and meaty, so they're way too heavy to get off the ground. So when we talk about flightless birds on Thanksgiving, it's not because nature failed, it's because we made them too delicious to soar. So as you sit down to your Thanksgiving meal, remember, this holiday isn't just about food and family. It's about survival, persistence, creativity, and a few oddball traditions that make it one of the strangest and most uniquely American holidays ever created. And hey, if your turkey's dry, just be thankful it didn't come from a zoo parade or a butter sculpture. If you like this video, consider liking and subscribing to Tell Everyone Trivia. Happy Thanksgiving!